Hello, this is Tina Shea Blanchett, Digital Engagement Specialist for Jefferson Parish Public Schools. Today's WordPress Wednesday webcast will focus on tips and tricks to enhance your WordPress site. I've been looking at some of the school websites and I can see that a lot of you have been working really hard, and I just want to address a few issues that I'm seeing on several websites. So I'm going to go through and show you some of the best websites I found and show you ways that you can enhance them. So let's hop right in. The first website that I want to look at with you is for Rupal Academy, which can be found at rupal.jpschools.org. Rupal has a great looking website. You can see that they've carefully chosen beautiful images to put in their slider, and they also have put a lot of information here, including news postings. One issue that I'm seeing across the board with our websites, including Rupal's, is that although we've put a lot of great information, we click through to certain pages and they're blank, okay? If you look at the About Us page, you can see that although we have sub-pages which do have information on them, the About Us page is empty. We need to make sure that when we're entering information into these sub-pages that we're also putting something on the landing page. It's okay if you want to put a lot of information on the sub-pages and not much on About Us, but at the very least you could simply say see the tabs above for more information. Here's an example of this on Harahan Elementary School's website. This is their resources page. Resources is another page that is commonly left blank on school websites. Notice how they have not put much information on the resources page, but at the very least they tell their users to explore the resources listed on the right. So even if you just put a sentence to let people know where the information is, you don't want to leave any blank pages on your site. And we can't delete parent pages because if we delete the parent, then we have to delete the children. So just make sure that your parent pages, even if you don't want to put a lot of information on them, have something so that your users know where to find the information. Chateau Estates Elementary, whose website can be found at chateau.jpschools.org, is another great model of what can be done with our new websites. If you click through to their resources page, you'll see another example of what I mean. Again, they didn't put a lot of information on here, but at the very least they let their users know where they can find the info. I want to stay on Chateau's website so that I can go to the next issue, which is something that we should really discuss. Another thing that I'm seeing across the board is issues with links. Some people are forgetting that links are not automatically generated in WordPress. So you have to make sure that when you're on a dashboard that you actually link. For example, if we look here on the resources page, notice how this is a link to the jpschools.org page. Be sure that when you're linking this, and I'll go into the editor so I can show you what it looks like. Be sure that when you're linking this, that you actually select this text and you go here to the Insert or Edit Link button, okay? If you don't do this, even if this is a web address, it is not going to link for your users. Another thing that I want to discuss with you is how to make sure that people know that links are on a page. So to show you an example of this, I want to go to the Chateau Parent Resources page, which is full of links, okay? Now, if I scroll down this page, I actually have a few examples of the things that I was talking about just a moment ago. Right here, we have the district policies, and you can see that this is actually underlined. This has some outside formatting, which is okay. If I click on this, then I see that that link is working. Now, some of these links, if you're not careful, they will blend in with the rest of the writing. So what you want to make sure is that every time you list a link on a page, you say something to the user that lets them know that this is a link. For example, this link, Adult Learning, ESL, and GED. I would make sure that I say something like click here to visit Adult Learning, or just something, Adult Learning, ESL, and GED link, something to let the reader know that this is indeed a link, because sometimes people are not going to scroll over this, especially if they're on an iPad or a mobile device, so you want to make sure that the links stand out on your page. Another easy way to do this is to simply create a list of links so that people know this is a list and everything on it is links. You could just put at the top of the page, please click on the following links, okay? So just make sure that when you're linking to information on your pages that you're telling people that these are in fact links and that they are clickable. I also want to note that I'm seeing this issue a lot on the procedures pages, the policies and procedures. A lot of schools are simply linking to their policies and procedures document, which is fine, but they're just putting the link. So you'll click on the page and it'll say policies and procedures handbook, but it won't specifically say click here to download. So make sure that you add that language if you just have a page where you want people to download the information instead of viewing it on the page. Just say click here to download, or is attached here, some type of language to let users know that they can click and download that document. Let's go on to the next issue. The next thing that I'm seeing, and it's really a minor issue, and this is another thing that I can show you here on Chateau's site, is images and placement on the page. This uniform site is very well organized, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see that they've actually done something really nice, which is to create a gallery of pictures of the students in the proper uniform. One thing that I want to point out here is that a lot of times when people land on pages, they may not scroll all the way down to the bottom. So if you have something nice like a picture like that, I would strongly suggest that you put it at the top of the page so that people see it as soon as they land. If you have that gallery right at the top, then it almost forces individuals to scroll down because they know there's probably some writing beneath it. So just in general, really consider doing a gallery at the top of the page because it's a really nice attention getter, and it's a shame if someone lands on your page and doesn't get to see it. So that was something that I wanted to make sure that I pointed out as well. Speaking of scrolling down pages, another issue that is really something that we need to discuss are long pages. Policies and procedures, when they are listed on the page, it does tend to be something that's going to be long. And when you have something that people have to scroll and scroll and scroll through, then you really have to take a lot of steps to make sure that this information is presented as clearly as possible so that your users can easily read through it or even skim it and find exactly the information that they need. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that are in our website that will help you organize this information a little bit better. The first thing that you want to know is that we do have wikis. Now, we've discussed wikis at trainings as something that you can use to give teachers pages or clubs or athletics, but another reason to use a wiki is that a wiki is a full width page. So if you have a page that's scrolling on and on and on, notice that you have all of this blank space that's not being utilized. If you were to move this information over to a wiki, then that will allow you to have the control over this entire space. So what I would go ahead and do with this is to click on Edit Page, and then make sure that I go to the text editor so I capture all of the code and copy and paste this information into a wiki. That's going to be a first step to take some information that's scrolling a long time and give it a little more space. We can always take this exact page and link it to the wiki so that the users don't know the difference. And remember, if you want to link one page to another, you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom on the dashboard and choose an alternate URL. Now remember, to add a wiki on the dashboard, I'm going to go to the Wikis tab, and I can simply click on Add Wiki. I'm just going to call this a test wiki, just a wiki that I'm creating to show you how to do this. Since I copied from the text editor, I want to make sure that I paste here. And now all of that information is there. I'm going to publish it. And then view my wiki. Now you can see that I've been given a little more space for this information to be spread out. But there are even more things that I can do to make this page better for my users. Another option that you have when you're dealing with a lot of information that you want to put on a single page is to take it into something like Microsoft Word and really edit it. I know that when you have a lot of content on a page that it sometimes gets tedious for you to go through and do the editing. So you can bring it into something more familiar like Microsoft Word and then easily copy and paste it back into your editor so that you can use it in WordPress. One thing that you want to be careful about is not bringing in all of the formatting that you get in Word that you don't want to have in WordPress. So I've already taken this information and have done some formatting to it, like I took and edited some bullets and kind of cleaned up some of the formatting. And now I want to show you how I can take this and copy it from Word and then properly paste it into WordPress. So now I'm going to go back to my WordPress site. And this is my wiki. I actually clicked on edit. That's another really good thing about your wikis, is that you also have the ability to do front-end editing, meaning that you don't have to go back into the dashboard. You can simply click edit on the wiki page and it'll open up the editor right there on the page. So I'm going to toggle over to my visual editor and open up my kitchen sink so that I have the maximum amount of options. So when I look at my visual editor, I want you to pay attention to this icon when you're using Word. This icon means that you can copy and paste from Word. So now WordPress will actually recognize that you are copying and pasting from a Word document and adjust the formatting accordingly, so you're not bringing in all of that extra formatting that Word automatically creates. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Paste from Word button. And notice how it brings up a window, and I hit Control V, my regular shortcut for pasting, and I can preview how this looks before I hit paste. That almost looks like I've pasted it a couple of times, so let me do it again. Let me select all and paste, and then I'm going to click Insert. Okay? Now you can see some differences in the formatting. Okay? And so I'm going to save these changes and see how it looks on my page. Okay, so now you can see that I've pasted this in. It actually gives me formatting that's a little more closely aligned to the style of the site. So notice how this does not look exactly like what I did in Word. It actually took the formatting that I did in Word and then adjusted it so that it would fit in with the look and feel of my WordPress site. Now there's still one more thing that I want to do to make this as organized and easy for my users as possible. If you look at the wiki now, you can see that I've added something new. It's a table of contents. This table of contents is automatically generated by WordPress using a shortcode. Let's go back to the editor so we can see how I created this table of contents. If you look at the visual editor, you can see that I didn't have to physically put a table of contents in there, but I just put a simple shortcode, table of contents with dashes and brackets, and I get that long table of contents that was generated on the front end. If I toggle over to the text editor, you can see that there are a lot of things on this page that have that H3 code wrapped around it. What happens with this table of contents is that it automatically pulls in anything that you note as a heading. So when you're using that table of contents, remember to stay away from bold for your headings and actually use your heading fonts that can be found here in the visual editor. Anything that you put in that heading font is going to show up in your table of contents. So you may want to go through and tweak. Maybe some things don't need to be headings because you don't want to have too many things in your table of contents. But again, this is the shortcode to create a table of contents, and it automatically pulls in anything that is written in a header font on your page. So just to recap, I know that in many cases you're going to have content that's going to take up a lot of space on your pages. So we've gone over a few options to make this content a little easier for your users to consume. The first thing you want to keep in mind is that you can use wikis, which are full width pages with front-end editing, to take information that may be a little crowded on your regular pages and give it a little more space for your users to read. You can also take information like this and edit it in Word. Just make sure that when you paste it into your visual editor that you actually use the paste from Word button so that your formatting is consistent across the site. You also want to use the table of contents shortcode for long pages and use header fonts to divide the information on the page so that people can easily navigate exactly to the place where they want to be on your page. So these are just a few things that you can do to take those long pages and make them a lot more easy for your users to look at. One last thing that I noticed about the sites is the homepage sliders. There are a couple of school websites that did a really great job at picking high resolution, compelling images to put on the front page of their site. Keep in mind that the slider will be the first thing that your users see when they land on your new site. The impression that they get of this new site will probably be based on that picture. So you want to choose one that looks really good. The first thing to know is that the size of the picture matters. If you don't crop your pictures down to the appropriate size, then it will look bad on your site. So you want to make sure that you're aware of what sizes are appropriate. We're looking at Rupal Academy's page right now, and you can see that they've chosen a lot of nice images to put on the front of their site. They have an image of students with a caption, which is also a very good practice, is to put captions so that people know what they're looking at. They have some images of the school. There's one image coming up that I think is great. It's a historical image of the school. And I like how they take that historical image and then they juxtapose it with a modern image so that people can see what the school looked like back then and what it looks like today. So really give some thought and time to the pictures that you choose to put on the front page. The resolution for the pictures on middle and high school sites is 640 by 400. Most pictures are not going to come at that resolution. Remember, we discussed in the migration training how to resize images. If you don't know how to resize images, please contact me. You can contact me by phone or email. You can either come in and I can show you how to do it, or I can talk you through it over the phone. But it's going to be critical that those images are the proper size. If we go to Harahan Elementary, which is a beautiful school, you can see that they have a beautiful image of the school on the front page of their new website. Notice that they only have one picture. If the picture is good, then one is enough. No one will know that this was a slider. It's perfectly okay to just have one image. Just make sure that it's a good one. For elementary websites, the resolution is 840 by 400. This information can also be found when you add a new slide. It will tell you right above the slide image what the recommended size is. Please adhere to this. This is not a recommendation. This is the size that it needs to be, or it's not going to look right on your page. Even if you have to use an outside editor like Paint or something, it's worth the time to make sure that all of your images are sized correctly. Another thing that you want to pay close attention to is the type of images that you're using. Particularly, and I'm going to click here so you can see what the first image is, particularly for the first image that people see when they land on your site. Usually you want this to either be a good image of your school or an image of your students in uniform. You want to make sure that when people land on your site that they get your school's identity, and that can usually be conveyed by actually showing what the school looks like or showing what your students look like. And we like to have pictures of students in uniform so that way it all coordinates with your school colors and people get a clear idea of what your school is all about. So that's what you want to put as your first image. Now what you decide to put for additional images is totally up to you. But remember that this is the first impression and you want people to know about your school. Here's another example of a school website. Now, when I go to Joshua Butler's homepage, you can see that they have an image of the students working, and we can click through and see more images. I really like this image because I can clearly see the school's logo on the students' shirts. I think this would be a great homepage image. And then I also want to show you Haynes Academy and the images that they've put on their homepage. The reason why this is a good example is because not only do they have the captions, which you want to make sure you take advantage of, but they've also used the full functionality of the slider, which allows you to link to articles. As we move forward, you really want to start using that slider to highlight things that are going on at your school. And you can link this to news postings that you write on your website. If you're featured on a district website like Haynes, then you can link to our website, but just try to use that slider in its full functionality of not only showing pretty pictures, but also bringing your users to content. To recap, there are 3 things that you want to keep in mind when you're working on your homepage slider. First and foremost, size matters. If you have an elementary school website, all of your images for your slider need to be 840 by 400 pixels. And if you have a middle and high school site, it needs to be 640 by 400. Images that have the wrong resolution will not look good on your front page. So you want to make those adjustments now so when your website launches on the 28th, it looks good. Another thing to keep in mind is make sure that you have carefully selected your first banner item, the thing that people see when they land on your website. In general, we recommend that you use either a picture of your school, a high quality picture of your school, or a picture of your students in uniform. Another school that has a great homepage slider is Bonnable. Let's look at their image that they've chosen. Now this is a unique image. This is actually a beautiful image of a student in a band uniform. Although this is not technically the school uniform, you can see that it definitely represents Bonnable and its school colors. So these are the type of high quality images that you want to use. One last thing to keep in mind is that you can always link these items to other things on your website or on other websites. So to use the full functionality of the slider, not only do you want to select great pictures, but you want to create great content that these pictures can link to. Now, before I wrap up this edition of WordPress Wednesday, I have a few more tips and tricks that I want to give you before you finish up your website. We're back on Joshua Butler Elementary's website, which can be found at butler.jpschools.org, where they've done some great things with formatting. And I want to remind you that once you've gotten your content on a page, you're not done. You want to format it so that people can easily navigate and read through the information that you've presented. If you look at Joshua Butler's About Us page, you'll see a great example of formatting. You can see that they've used an image of the school to anchor the page. They don't have too much paragraph content, which is usually difficult for users to read. So you want to make sure that you limit the number of paragraphs that you have on a page. And then they use bulleted lists to give additional information with headings and header fonts. Okay, so you can see that they've actually taken the time to lay out this information as opposed to simply copying and pasting it on the page. Another great example from the Butler site is their uniforms page. If we go to the uniforms page, you can see that they've used the table shortcode to create a quick and easy reference to find out what kind of uniforms are okay for students to wear. This is a great example of condensing information so that your users can get what they need quickly. Now obviously there's probably a much longer uniform policy in a handbook somewhere that they could have copied and pasted onto this page. But keep in mind that your users are here to get the information as quickly and as directly as possible. So it is not necessary for you to put the entire policy, but rather condense it in a form that your web users can find out what they need to know as quickly and as easily as possible. Another practice, just in terms of making sure that you have full disclosure, is you can even put a link to your full uniform policy, or say something like the full uniform policy is available in the student handbook that students receive at the beginning of the year, something to that effect. But in general, you don't want to be putting the entire policy of anything on your page, because unfortunately most people are not going to read it. You want to give them the information that they need and the information that you really want them to know. So I think that again, this is a really great example of how to take some information and condense it and present it in a way that's easy for users to consume. J.C. Ellis Elementary, whose website can be found at ellis.jpschools.org, has a great example of the use of clip art. Now, I know in the past I've always said that I'm not a big fan of clip art, but I have to tell you that J.C. Ellis has totally changed my mind on that. They have really taken clip art to a new level. You can see that on their About Us page, they have a picture of an eagle, their mascot. But if you click through to some of their other pages, you can see that the same eagle is going to show up again. Here he's with parents. Here he's reading policies and procedures. And if we go to the school supplies page, you can see him again going to school with his supplies. So in this case, this is a really great example where clip art is really compelling. If you can find clip art that is specifically related to your school in this way, this is going to be a great enhancement to your website. So that's all I have. Make sure that you're editing your empty landing pages, you're identifying all links, you're showcasing pictures on top of pages, you're using things like table of contents and pasting from Word to organize your long pages, and you're enhancing your home page slider. Additional things that you can do is making sure that you're going through your pages and organizing them with header fonts and bullets, and also using clip art and images to really enhance your pages. I'm Tina Shea Blanchette, Jefferson Parish Public Schools Digital Engagement Specialist, and this has been WordPress Wednesday. I'll see you next week.